Hi, welcome back. How are you? So the next part we're going to be doing is hoses. So if you like pistons, you're going to flipping love hoses. So what I need to do now is basically build in some sort of functionality for this, so that obviously we're able to incorporate things like hoses and things, so that it looks like it's going to work. Now, hoses are slightly different in that it is a dynamics object, but I am going to use it. So go down here, go to my compound object, go to dynamics objects, and spring damper. Now where is it? Is it compound object? No, where have they put it? Hose, there it is, it's in the extendeds. So if I just grab myself a hose, like this, and bring it out. Now, I have the choice of using the default hose if I want to, which is this. It's not groovy, to be honest, but it does the trick. Now I'm going to turn off flex section enable, hit F4 instead, and this will allow me to change the number of sides of my object. Now they used to keep it low because the processing power of computers was terrible, but now we don't need to, so that's good. I'm going to make its diameter 1.5 just because it's a nice round number. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a pair of helpers. So here they are, dummy, and I'm going to auto grid these fellas so they are created on this surface. So the Z is up here, and this will become one piece, and then over here this will be one piece, and I'm going to just embed that in slightly. Okay, now just to show you how we use hose control, so we'll rename this, and the old one was called what was it called, toe connection, something like that, I don't know. Anyway, if we open up these you'll see it, but hang on, what was that called? There we are, piston control helper 1. So this will be hose control helper 1. I'll call it 001 just for the sheer heck of it. Now I'll copy it, Control C, and put it in this one, because I like being able to know what the parts are in my list. Never used to, always used to be just a horde of boxes, but now I pay slightly more attention to it. Okay, now this is our hose, and we're going to bind it to object pivots. So, bottom pivot, that's this fella. Top pivot, that's this fella. Okay, and you may notice it's a little bit tense, okay? It's kind of sticking out a little bit. Can you notice that? I think you probably can. So, what I could do is maybe change the tension on these, lower them down, so at the minute they're 20. Well, let's change it again. 10. 10. There, that's much better. Now, see that little twisty fella there, just in the middle? You can get around that. What I need to do is select this box, just rotate it 90 degrees, and voila, I can rotate it another 90 degrees as well, and it's almost completely fixed. It's just the angle really, it's just the way they are sometimes. So there we go, that's about right. Now, a little bit thick, so I can either taper it or I can actually edit poly on top of this and it becomes dynamic. Rather than doing that, I think I'm going to just change the diameter of my hose down a bit more like that, and then I can let's go up and adjust the tension again, so maybe make it about 4. Okay, so there, now that's working a lot better, and you're thinking, well, you know, that's good, but what does it do? I'll show you in a minute, we're nearly done. I just want to basically bring this one down as well. So this dummy's a bit too big. Scale it in. Now if I scale it in, you'll notice like this starts to change. I'll just leave the dummy the way it is. Right, so I'm going to grab that dummy, this and this, and we can actually copy and move effects, which is kind of helpful. So I'm going to move this dummy here because it's not quite straight at the top. And now if I shift and drag it, I can have one here, and shift and drag it, I can have one here. Now they're all identical at the minute, so why don't we just have some fun adjusting the tension on these. So for example, the top tension on this one could be 2, while the bottom tension on this one could be 3. So that one's now slightly different. And then this one could be a top tension of 3 and a bottom tension of 3. So that one's coming in as well. So now we have these 3 all coming in here like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 3 pieces. Now if you're having trouble selecting them, remember we gave them good names over here, so we can just click and drag them as well. I mean click and select them. Now I'm just going to use the link tool and link it to this nice piece here. And then the bottom ones, you may remember, are other helpers. I'll just go through and select all of those. I will click and move to there. Okay, so what's that done for us? Apart from, you know, giving us a rather nice 10-minute interlude. Well, let me just go up here and use my move tool. And now our hoses move with it as well. Okay, and the good thing about our hoses moving with it is that our object starts to look a lot more logical. Okay, so it's a lot more likely that we'd have hydraulics controlling this in a much more active way, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this. Now, these pistons are, in my opinion, going to be a little bit too big, but that's okay. First thing I can do is I will make a copy, because it's important, in my opinion, to have a basic piston. So I'm going to move that, not you, just this. I'm going to move my piston and make a copy of it just there. Bam. Now, you may notice our look at targets have changed for the worse, because they're not looking at the right thing. Let's have a look at that again, just to show you. I'll just delete everything in this. Actually, I can just undo it. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, I can move around the piece absolutely fine, but if I was to copy it, like so, go back to my original one and move it. The original one's fine, but this one, there, you have to move it so it resets itself. I don't know why 3ds Max has always been like that. Right, so I'm going to move my original one away. Off you go. And this one, which is currently too big, I'm going to reduce somewhat. So I'll just come into here and zoom. And then I'm going to drop this end. Okay, because I don't need this one quite so high. And then here, if I just hit F4, I'm going to grab these verts, bring them down a bit. That's what I like about being able to do things this way. You see, you get a lot more flexibility and control over your model. I'm going to grab these. And you may be thinking, well, it won't work anymore, but it will. It's all dynamic. The way that we've set this up, it's a fully dynamic object. Now I can just grab these. Actually, I've got them properly, because you can't see them through there. Drag them to there. And now if I bring this down, remember we've got to control it by the right area, which is this. There we go. And now that's a much better size. So now we have 2 pistons. So what about I make a copy of this just in case we need it again. And I can just drag it over to there. And remember, as soon as we move our piston, it springs back. Okay. So let's go in on this, and I might need to reduce it in size, I might not. Let's have a look. The thing is, these pistons are supposed to control the upper part of the foot here, and like, I think they're a little bit too small. We can put some dampers in there as well, but I think the actual space we've got is a little bit too small. So if I bring that into there, like so, and then up, I think what we can do is we can get away with this by creating a kind of a platform inside our currently empty foot. So at the minute, if we just look at this, okay, so we have 2 of these side by side here, and then all the way around. Let's just have a look at the height on the perspective. I think we just need to drop it down a little bit, and then we'll get basically a simulator that we can use to control the rotation of the top plate. So let's have a look at that. We'll also get a lot of basically the illusion of control. Okay, so if I'm doing it that way, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate these fellas. Now remember what I said, okay, duplicating these can make it look like it's becoming a mess. It isn't though, so I'll put these two side by side. Move it a little bit. There we go, and it fixes it. Like that. Now, I'm going to need to get its little friend too, so... There we go. And if I just move these over to here, now I can rotate them. And just move them in place. Should be about there. And then again. And rotate those into place. And like I say, don't be afraid if you think that 3ds Max is like bollocks it all up. It hasn't. It's just basically the way this thing is set up. These systems are actually quite elderly. The hose system and the system that I use for pistons and things. So it does still have a few legacy problems in my humblest of opinions. Now what I need to do is make sure that these aren't damaged in any way. Because like I say, as it's a legacy system, that can happen. Just straighten them all out. Make sure I've got everything. There we go, and drop in perspective and zoom. Okay, so now if we have a look, they're all okay. These fellas here have rotated for some obscure reason. You notice I can't actually rotate that piece, but I can rotate this one. So I might have to rebuild those parts. It could be that I've just copied them badly actually. Let's have a look. I'll just delete these off while I'm doing it. And delete these parts off as well. Yeah, I think it's these little parts here. Did not move, so hang on, we'll go back and do them. Before we do though, let's just check that our method is going to work. It used to, but 3ds Max may have decided to throw a hissy since then. So I'll move that one over to there. Move that one back. Then with this all selected. Yeah, the hoses aren't happy with being moved, I can tell. I'll probably have to reposition the hoses manually. Let's have a look and see what the problem is there. Yeah, it's because the lookout constraints basically aren't allowing us to move the hoses. So we can have hoses on the front, but we can't have hoses on the back. Well, that's okay. We can always do it a different way if we have to. For the moment, let me see. Yeah, we might have to just keep them all facing in the same direction. In fact, that probably will work fine. It's a bit of a cheat, but you know what? Most people aren't going to notice, so that's cool. So what I'm going to do is just come in and grab this one. Like that. Okay, and now if I go to my top view and zoom, hit F4 so I can see where I'm going. Have one there, and one there, and one there, and then one there. Now I'll just go ahead and select these, move this one down a little bit more. separate them off as much as I can. There we go. And the same over here. Let's deselect that piece. There we go. So these two are nicely separated. And now, if I just select all of this one, now this one, and then over here, and hold shift and bring it back to there. Click OK. Budget a teeny bit. Now, only do this if you're sure that your computer is really going to kind of keep up with you, okay? Because I've seen people do this on normal kind of computers and mostly cook them off because what we're doing is quite powerful as a procedure. So I'm just warning you. Okay, now I'm going to move these 3 bits here just to where I don't need to see them for the moment. There we go. And not to leave a part behind. There we are. Okay, now in the bottom part of this I need to create a new cylinder, so what I'm going to do is grab this, which will come in quite handy, and what I can do here is just scale it. So I'm holding down shift, scaling the bally lot. Like so. Perspective zoom. That gives us this rather nice piece here. Okay, that seems to be okay. Let's just see if there's any gaps or anything. There is a bit, so I can just scale it. Until we get what I call the intersection point. There we go. Just make sure that these pieces are kind of resting on top of it, which they are, so that's cool. And I'm going to grab these edges here and just do a loop, and then I'm going to bring them in. And that way we get slightly more real estate for these things here to sit on. And I am going to attach that and that. And now I'm going to grab this bit and bring it up here. Go to my top viewport, front viewport. I just need to line this up. There we go, like so. Did I move it or did I copy it? Good, I moved it because I'm going to detach it. And I'm going to attach this as upper, oops, caps, upper foot control. Okay, so upper foot control, this is the ring that anything else for the foot is going to hang off, basically. So it's quite an important part. Okay, and I'm going to affect its pivot and just center it completely. Right, now, what I can do here, I'll drop in perspective because I don't like orthographic very much, is I can now take these parts, use my select tool rather than my select and move for this. Because the thing about robots is it's not like people, it's kind of important to pose it a bit as we go along. With an organic one, an organic piece, we can model it in the T-pose and then go, oh, that's done. But with mechanical we don't really have that luxury, so there we go. Now, what's that done for us? Well, let's have a quick look. A little looky-see, as it were. Because now, if I select this, I should. Yep, I can move it. And I get a lot of damper control. See? Everything moving the way it should be. Beautiful. That makes me happy. So now I'm going to bring this down just a teeny bit to about there. Okay, and we have that piece about done. Now what I need to do on the inside of this, therefore, is select these parts. A rather helpful son just bought me my dentist appointment, bless him. What a good lad. Okay, so notice no dependency loop. So we do have now the ability to move our foot around, and we have pistons coming off it, so that's good. Now then, I'm going to unhide all, like so. I'm going to move this detail part down here, and as it's here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an area, just for my reference. It's a toolbox, so if I go for rectangle and just grab that out, and then in this I can just put some text so I know what it is. I'll just reduce the size of it, it doesn't need to be massive. Okay, and that way if I need to also describe what something is for later on, if I'm going to be gone for a while, then I can do that too. Okay, so you're starting to hopefully see now how our foot's coming together with all our lovely pistons and things. Let's stir this up a cuppa. Now what I have to do is create a secondary ring that's going to come off the top of this, and that is going to be our second layer of piston connections that basically connect our foot to the lower leg and then the lower leg to the knee. Although a lot of the hardest stuff has now been done. You wouldn't think it. You'd think to yourself, well, we started off with all this complex gubbins, you know, how much more is there? Well, not as much as you'd think. So I'm just going to have a quick look under here, then on there. Yeah, that's looking okay. I'm pleased with that. So I think rather than stretch on into the next tutorial, in the next part I'm going to be doing the upper foot, because obviously we've got the upper foot control here. And from that we'll be able to create the ball joint that goes to the leg, and then we'll be able to start populating the piston sockets. So until we get to that delightful part, I wish you adieu, and we'll see you in the next bit.